Hi guys, welcome. If you're new here, my name's Nikki. I'm a beekeeper and I make beekeeping videos. If that's something you're interested in watching, hit the subscribe button. If you're one of my returning subscribers, thank you so much for coming back and listening to what I have to say. I really appreciate it. Today I'm going to do our week 10 inspection on our newest hive of honeybees. If you haven't seen the previous videos and you're interested in watching them, I will link them down in the description below. Well, I'm going to get my stuff on and we'll get started. Give them a little bit of smoke. I have already been out here this morning and I've removed their feeder to replace that. Lots and lots of bees up here. Lots of bees. They have been busy lately, so I'm excited to see what they've done this past week. And I will decide today, depending on how drawn out they are up in this top, I may put a honey super on for them a little bit earlier than I otherwise normally would, because my family and I are going on vacation in a few days. So I will make that decision once we get in here and see how much progress they've made. So if they're right on the verge of needing a super, I'll probably go ahead and put that on, or just put it on in a couple days before we leave. Lots of bees. There's tons of propolis on this inner cover. Just a quick scan from my queen. And I don't see her up here. Okay, so we have lots and lots of bees up here, and a lot on these outer frames, which is really promising. Give them some smoke. Very sticky propolis today. So they just started a tiny amount of comb on this back side of the outer frame, and on the other side they've got a little tiny bit of comb drawn on this. So I'll bring you up and see here. The bees are kind of clustered here, but you can see where they've started to draw out this frame a little bit. They have a couple cells with some pollen in it and some syrup. And then on this side, just a tiny bit of comb started to be drawn there on that side. So far, this is looking really good. So on our next frame, definitely have a lot drawn out here. And we have a frame with eggs in it, a little bit of syrup. And this next side is a frame of eggs, larvae, with a tiny amount of syrup here at the top. So this is, here we've got a frame with our larvae, a little bit of eggs. And on this side we've got new comb that's been drawn and some eggs in there. Lots of bees down in this bottom box. I am very, very happy with this queen thus far. I've had really, really good luck from the supplier that I get my packages and queens from. I've always gotten really good quality queens from them. Beautiful frame of brood. This is a newer frame that's been drawn out. The cappings on here are a little bit lighter than you're going to see on some of the other brood frames, and that's kind of consistent with newer wax. And on the other side, I've got a frame with eggs, lots of syrup here at the top, and a little bit of pollen and a tiny amount of capped brood. So here you can see we've got a lot of syrup at the top, a little bit of capped brood, and some eggs. And on this side we have capped brood, and if you see the cappings are lighter in color, that is because this is a newer or newly drawn frame. But as these bees emerge and the queen lays more bees in those cells, those cappings will get a little bit darker, as well as the comb. So far, it's looking like it's possible that we're going to put a honey super on today. There we go. So this frame has some larvae, some eggs. Scanning for my queen here. We've seen her up in this top box. Most of the inspections we've done since we put that box on. And we've got a frame of capped brood here on the other side. So you can see that the difference in the color on this cap brood versus the cap brood on the previous frame. So that's a little darker in color. And on this side we've got some larvae and some eggs. There is just a tremendous amount of bees in here comparative to the previous weeks. I know I don't gotta get you guys a shot down inside the hive. Maybe I'll do that at some point. It's hard to do when you're filming by yourself and doing your inspections. Here I've got a frame of some, looks like empty cells. I don't see a lot of eggs in here yet. There's a little bit of eggs. Some burr comb here on the bottom, and several start of queen cups here on the bottom that are empty. So we've got 1, 2, 3 queen cups that are started here on the bottom, 4, 5, so I will take care of those. And on this side of our frame we've got a frame of capped brood with another queen cup here on the bottom of this frame. So we are back to building lots of queen cups in here. So there's this side of the frame, capped brood, and here we've got some empty cells, a little bit of eggs in there, but here on the bottom, you can see that burr comb. We've got several queen cups that once I spot my queen, I will go in and take care of. And you do know she's been here recently. There are eggs in here. Change out my gloves. Pretty light frame here. Have a frame of larvae, eggs on this side. I thought we had some queen cells there, but those are just drone cells that aren't tapped over yet. And on this side of the frame we have some fresh comb and lots of eggs in these cells. If I don't trip. So here we have new comb, lots of eggs, and on this side we have lots of eggs on this frame as well. I'm going to move my other hive tool so I don't trip and fall. Do not want to trip and fall into your hive. That would not be fantastic. And this frame, we've got a frame of syrup and some pollen. And on this side, we've got new comb with syrup as well. So if you see there, we've got some new comb with syrup. And on this side, we've got some new comb with syrup and a couple cells of pollen. Really pretty yellow pollen. So we've got just the littlest amount of comb drawn out on this frame, and this side is empty. I'll bring this up, but there's not much to show you. Just a tiny amount drawn out there. And it looks like our last two are empty. So they're about 70% drawn out in here. We'll give them another day or so. We don't leave for a couple days. So I'll give them another day or so and I'll come out, and I'll definitely put a honey super on for them before we leave. And here we have an empty frame. And our last frame looks to be empty as well, but we will check it out. And it is. Just a tiny amount started. So I'm going to go ahead and put these girls back. And get into our bottom box. All right, let's take a look down here on our bottom box. Pretty full down here as well. Okay, so here we've got just a little bit of comb. It looked like we had a little bit of capped brood here that just kind of got a little squished when I pulled this frame out. It's unusual to see a lot of brood on the outer frame. Lots of syrup on this frame and some capped brood. And they are rebuilding the queen cells back onto this frame. So this frame is the one from up top that I put down in the bottom. And they are building those queen cells right back in that same exact spot. And they look to be empty. There's nothing in them, but they are right in the same spot that they've been in. So kind of right there on that frame, you can see where they are rebuilding those. And we've got capped brood, syrup on the top, and here on the back a little bit of brood there, a little bit of comb, and they will probably likely move and start storing syrup here in this side of the frame because typically you don't have brood on the outer frames. So we'll see what they do with that. These cells are empty. I'm going to go ahead and tear them down. I think me and the bees are just going back and forth at this point with the queen cups. They're empty. Okay. A couple guard bees swarming me there for a minute, but I think they've lost interest in me. So this frame we have syrup, and it is kind of a newer built frame. And on this side, lots of bee bread and sugar syrup. You didn't see any eggs on this frame. And that is what this side of the frame looks like. Lots and lots of syrup. And on this side we have lots of syrup and lots of pollen. So lots of resources on this frame. So that is this side. And that is that side. This is all syrup and pollen. Somebody did ask me about this hive having so much brood in the top and a lot more resources in the bottom, and that's just currently right now kind of how the bees are drawing things out and storing things. But typically as we get closer to fall and the queen will decrease laying, the bees will change that on their own. So they will start to kind of backfill those upper brood frames with syrup and honey, and we're going to watch that they're doing that, and if they're not doing it, we will give them a little bit of help. But right now I'm not concerned about how they're storing stuff. It's still pretty early, and we have another nectar flow as well. This is a pretty heavy frame. This is our frame of pollen, our bee bread, and we have some syrup along the edges. that's capped. And the other side is the same. So almost a full frame of pollen. So that's what we have here. And that is what this side looks like. And several bees with pollen on them on this frame. And this is not a heavy frame. We've got some capped brood here with, I don't see any eggs in the empty cells. And this side we have a lot of pollen and some capped brood. And let's bring it up so you can take a look at this. So we have some capped brood there with empty cells, and I don't see any eggs in those cells yet. But there's still capped brood down here in the bottom. And this side has a lot of pollen and some capped brood as well. Okay, we have a frame of eggs here and some pollen. Be there. I'm trying not to squish her. There we go. And this side we have a frame of eggs and pollen. So it's nice to see that the queen is still laying down here. So we have a frame there with eggs and pollen, and one there with eggs and pollen as well. So some years when we get into dearth, I stop giving pollen patties in the spring, kind of in late spring. But there have been times that, depending on the amount of resources that are in a hive, I will start giving them pollen patties back again during dearth. So as we get kind of farther along, I'll still check these girls to see how much resources they have. But as of right now, they have plenty of pollen, so I don't think that I'm going to be doing that. If you are interested, in this corner. Okay, so this frame we've got capped brood and some eggs that are in the empty cells. And similar on the back side, we've got some pollen, some capped brood, and there are eggs in the empty cells. Here's what we have here. And this side looks similar, with capped brood and eggs in those empty cells. So they're almost all the way drawn out in this box. And here we have some eggs and some capped brood with some syrup along the edges, and we have a queen cell that is also empty. So you see the queen cell right there at the top. It is empty, and we've got capped brood and eggs, and on this side we've got capped brood with eggs in those empty cells. Lots of pollen, or a pretty decent amount of pollen on this frame as well. I'm going to go ahead and tear down this queen cell. And just check for more. And I don't see any more. Let's go ahead and look at our last couple frames. Got 1, 2 queen cells on this frame, 3. And that one is empty. I think we'll probably go ahead and put their honey super on. And pollen and sugar in this one, and a tiny amount of comb here. So you can see a tiny amount of comb there, and we have comb on this side, a little bit of sugar syrup and pollen, and we have multiple queen cells there in the middle. I'm kind of genuinely shocked that these cells have all been empty. Let's check out our last frame. Make sure I got them all. Okay. I believe we had a queen cell on this last frame last week, but I could be wrong. Lots of sugar syrup on this frame. Some of it's capped. A little bit of empty cells, no eggs in them. This looks like nectar syrup frame, and the back side is empty. So that's our back side. And here on the top, or here on this side, you can see the capped syrup up at the top, and the rest of the frame is syrup as well. So I'm going to put this box back together, and then I'm going to destroy the queen cells up in the top. And those will be pretty easy to do since most of them are on that burr comb at the bottom of the frames. Get you guys out of the way. I didn't see my queen. I might have missed her, but there's lots and lots of eggs in here, and none of those queen cells had any egg or larva in them. So she's definitely in here. Okay guys, I just finished our week 10 inspection on this hive. It went well. The bees are doing great. The queen is still laying a ton, lots of eggs in there. The population of this hive has increased substantially over the last couple of weeks. We have a lot of brood that has emerged and the queen has laid in those cells again. I did not see her specifically in this inspection, but we know she's in there. There's a lot of eggs. They did make a lot more queen cells in here that I did remove. There were no eggs or larvae in any of those. The top box has significantly more comb and resources in the last couple of weeks. They're not quite to where I'd like them to be to put honey super on, but as I said previously in the video, my family and I are going on vacation, so I'm going to be gone for a little over a week. So I'm going to come out in 2 days and put an excluder on and put a honey super on for them, just in case they really draw out a lot more in the time that I'm gone. I want to make sure they have enough space. I don't think I'm at risk of putting that super on and them being overwhelmed with the amount of space that's in there and swarming for that reason. So I think I'm going to be okay there. But we'll come back and see how they're doing. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. If you found this video helpful, leave a like. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.